Welcome back to Grim Ghouls, where two best friends who are obsessed with dark mysteries, twisted killers, and the cases that keep people up at night. Think late night hangouts, if they included serial killers, conspiracy theories, and us spiraling every 10 minutes. I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Madison. And tonight we are talking about a girl from 1995 whose crimes were so brutal and filled with so much rage. The level of violence involved in this murder was beyond anything most people could comprehend coming from teenagers. This is the story of Christa Pike. Before we begin, this episode contains discussions of murder, graphic violence, suicide, torture, and disturbing crime scene details involving teenagers. So listener discretion is advised. Your mental health matters.
We also would like to add that everything discussed in this episode is based on publicly available records, court documents, interviews, and news reports available at the time of recording. Some portions of the case may involve allegations, witness statements, or disputed claims. Our goal is simply to discuss the case responsibly and respectfully. With that being said, let's jump into it.
Can I please have my mom before I go?
Mr. Bates, please hold Miss Pike in the dock.
Please, let me just love my mom.
Christa Pike was born prematurely on March 10, 1976, to Carissa and Emil Glenn. Her parents had a complicated relationship. They were married for 2 years, then divorced for a year after her mother was found cheating on her husband, and remarried for another 2 years after Carissa attempted suicide. Both of them were negligent. An aunt noted that as an infant, Pike would be crawling around through piles of dog feces all over the house, and that Carissa continued a lifestyle of drinking, even receiving news that her toddler was experiencing severe seizures. Pike's paternal grandmother would frequently help care for her. Carissa testified that Pike had attempted an overdose when she was in the 3rd grade. She received psychiatric treatment, followed by psychological care and therapy at different ages. At age 12, after her grandmother's death, Christa attempted suicide and received life support. Christa's living situations continued to be unstable throughout her teenage years, and she was both the recipient and perpetrator of violence. One of her mother's boyfriends punched her in the face after Christa chased him with a butter knife. Criminal charges were filed and then settled. While staying with her father's new family, one of her younger half-sisters claimed to have been molested by Christa, causing her father to eject her from his home.
Christa claimed to have been sexually assaulted or molested at several points in time. Her friends and family doubted these occurrences, noting that she is a pathological liar. Christa's mother claimed that in one incident, a man claimed by telephone that he was going to rape her. In response, Christa and a friend beat him with a stick in a parking lot. Christa's unstable home caused her to frequently change schools, which affected her performance in school. In the 10th grade, she was sent to a juvenile facility for a year, where she became interested in the Job Corps, a government program aimed at helping low-income youth by offering vocational training and career skills. In 1994, Christa attended the Job Corps Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is no longer in operation. Christa reportedly completed her GED program and aspired to train as a nursing assistant. While in the Job Corps, she began dating a boy a year younger than herself named Tadaryl Shipp. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. Christa and Tadaryal's relationship was intense and volatile. They were both drawn to the occult, dabbling in devil worship, and dark rituals, something that set them apart from everyone else and fed their shared intensity. Christa was obsessed with Tadaryl. It was fierce, almost possessive, and she was jealous of anyone she thought might interfere. I would also like to add that, yes, you can absolutely feel how unstable her childhood was and how sad. Still, it is very important to acknowledge that trauma can sometimes explain behavior, but it does not excuse what she eventually did.
Oh, absolutely. I want to talk about Colleen Slemmer before we get into the night of January 12, 1995. So Colleen was just 19 years old and a classmate of Christa, and Christa became jealous of Colleen because she believed she was trying to steal her boyfriend. Colleen was lured under the false pretense that she was going to hang out with Christa and some others. Colleen walked into a situation trusting people she knew. She was told they might want to make peace by offering her some marijuana. Christa and her friend Shondala, and once again, I apologize if we messed up a name, they planned to lure Colleen to an isolated, abandoned steam plant near the University of Tennessee campus. On January 12, 1995, Christa, Shondala, and Tadero and Colleen signed out of the formatory and proceeded to the woods. When they arrived at the location, Colleen was attacked by Christa and Tadero. Shondala was just a lookout. Over the next 30 minutes were some of the most brutal and devastating things to happen to a teenager. Colleen was taunted, beaten, slashed, and had a pentagram carved into her chest. Christa smashed Colleen's head with a piece of asphalt, resulting in finally ending the trauma. And trust me, it gets worse. Christa kept a piece of Colleen's skull and started to show it off around the entire school. The three of them were arrested within 36 hours. Detectives looked at the log and saw 4 kids going out and only 3 coming back. They found the piece of skull in Christa's jacket, and soon after her arrest, she confessed to the police about the torture and killing of Colleen, but insisted they were merely trying to scare her and it got out of control. Another messed up part is that Colleen's mother repeatedly asked Tennessee authorities to return the skull to her for proper burial, but it remained in possession of the state as evidence. Authorities state it would not be returned while the case remained open, while it was awaiting Christa's trial.
Christa, Tadero, and Shondala were all charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Shondala, who agreed to become a witness for the prosecution, received probation after pleading guilty to being an accessory after the fact. Tadero, who turned 17 2 months before the murder, was tried as an adult. During Christa's trial, the prosecution was aided by evidence and her confession. The prosecution sought a death sentence for Christa and a life sentence without parole for Tadero. On March 22nd, after a few hours of deliberation, Christa was found guilty on both counts. Christa was sentenced to death by electrocution for the murder charge and 25 years in prison for the conspiracy charge. In January 1997, Tadero was also found guilty on both counts. However, after the jury could not unanimously agree whether he deserved to spend the rest of his life in prison, the judge sentenced him to life in prison with parole eligibility. They described Tadero as a dangerous individual, and the judge imposed a consecutive 25-year sentence for his conspiracy conviction, ensuring that he would not become eligible for parole until he was in his late 40s or 50s. Tadero tried for parole but was denied in October 2025.
Christa's appeals were all over the place. Following the guilty verdict, she launched, canceled, and then relaunched an appeal for her conviction in the Tennessee state courts. It just kept going back and forth. 2001, 2002, 2008, 2016. All those years of her filing a motion, then taking it away, then trying again. On August 24, 2001, Christa, with alleged assistance from inmate Natasha, attacked and attempted to strangle fellow inmate Patricia with a shoestring and nearly succeeded in choking her to death. In 2003, Christa received another charge of attempted first-degree murder and received a 25-year sentence for the attack on Patricia. In March 2012, it was allegedly revealed that Christa had made escape plans involving correction officer Justin.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Escaping prison is crazy work. Just imagine being in prison and you're like, you know what? I could just leave.
I know, right? I was recently watching Prison Break, and the whole thing was just so much like, imagine the process you have to go through to even thinking about escaping from prison. There's no way. But this part is all allegedly. According to the TBI, the plan was not very far along when uncovered, and the jailbreak was not imminent. On September 30th, 2025, the Tennessee Supreme Court issued a death warrant for Christa and scheduled to take place on September 30th, 2026, this year. If Christa is executed, she will be the first woman to be executed in Tennessee in roughly 2 centuries.
The case of Christa Pike is one of those stories that leaves people uncomfortable long after they hear it. Not because of how brutal the crime was, but because of how young everyone involved was. These weren't hardened adult criminals with years of violent history behind them. These were just teenagers. Even now, decades later, people still debate the same questions. Was Christa Pike simply evil? Was she deeply mentally ill? Was she shaped by years of abuse and instability? Or was it all of those things combined?
Thank you for watching this episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share us with your spooky besties. Make sure to also follow us on all of our socials to keep up with new updates and future cases.
Bye, ghouls!